Hey, what's up, fam? Jesus, this was probably the best episode of Ruby they've ever had. Honestly, I'm not. I don't even think I'm exaggerating anything when I say this. For episode 3 of volume 6, everything about this episode was just really on point. The kind of deepening of lore, as well as explaining very small key events. You get kind of the basis of why everything is kind of existing. You get so much out of this episode. Cool action. You understand a lot of the characters. It's pretty solid. Like everything about this was just really good. You kind of obviously start out. You find out the whole stuff about the original Ozma, and Salem, and how he was like some hero who came and met her. They fell in love, but he got sick and died, and it was kind of she felt like it was kind of cheated because obviously after all the battles and adventures he'd been on, something like sickness taking him, so young, she just felt was complete and total crap. So she goes to the god of light. He's like, no, I can't do that. So then she goes to the god of darkness, and he's like, yeah, sure, fix it. And then the god of life shows up, and they get in a tussle. And actually, I like the God of Darkness better, just because he's more of a Western dragon, and the God of Light is a Eastern dragon. I think I prefer Western dragons personally. I think they both look cool, but obviously I got my preferences. It's a shame because obviously if she went to the God of Darkness first, everything would have seemed to have been seemed like it would have went pretty well because he was just like, yeah, fine. And the only reason that the God of Darkness had a problem with it is because she had already gone to the God of Light, and he was just like, she came to me first, and I said no, so she just went right to you. She probably doesn't even really believe in you. Just like, oh, well, sorry about it. And then they end up making her immortal, which was kind of like a curse at the start. She ends up using the kind of the facade of it of this like curse, this punishment that she'd been put upon for trying to mess between the boundaries of life and death as being an immortal, and she ends up using it to kind of say like she tricked the gods out of it, and she goes to talk to a lot of the humans. It actually really reminds me of Zareth a lot. Like a lot of this really reminded me of Zareth and Mavis, but on opposite ends from Fairy Tale. And I'll kind of like if you've read or watched that, you know what I mean, with the whole bit of Zareth trying to figure out how to beat death, revive his brother up, and then the god Ankh Saram curses him to being immortal, and like the curse is ending up kind of like what drives him into like his super evil state. Like it really fits as well with Salem, and she uses like I'm immortal. We need to take care of the old gods, and there can be some new ones, and she kind of wants to lead humanity, and all these guys are like, yeah, let's rally behind her. And when, it was funny is when she got there, she had like 3 kingdoms and like the armies. It was only like 100 people, and I was like, maybe she should have got a little bit more, or maybe like Rooster Teeth should have just like copied and pasted a couple more models in the back, or at least made it look like there were more people, and it would have been like more impressive. But the God of Darkness just like grabbed all their magic when they threw it at him, ended up saying, you know what, fine, you guys are using my gifts against me, then so be it. Crushes the energy gathered from it, and like wipes humanity off the whole planet, and then he and the God of Light are like, you know what, screw this place. We'll take this as a life lesson and get the hell out of here. We're done. And when he leaves, he like jumps right through the moon, breaks like the so you get like I was talking about, you get stuff not only of like lore for you know how come some people have magic, why Salem and Oz, how does Oz work, how is he able to do these things, how is Salem able to do these things, and but you get one of the questions that people have been wondering since the start. It's like, what happened to the moon? Like, but it's really cool that it's just like a god leaving, like cracked it in two, or not even cracked it in two, like cracked it into like a permanent crescent with like all the chunks like all around it. And she ended up wandering around the Earth all by herself for who knows how long before humanity kind of brought itself back up, and that's when Ozma was kind of like given this task of, hey, you need to go try and unite humanity and get things how they're going. We're going to leave these relics behind that have, I think it was it was like creation, destruction, ideals, and wisdom. And if they bring all the relics here, the gods will come back. They'll judge humanity, and if they are worthy of everything, they'll make humanity whole again. They'll make them as they were. And but if they are not up to the gods like standard, they're just gonna like destroy the whole planet and get rid of humans permanently. I don't know why you would ever want to bring the gods back, because I feel like the only real problem that will continue seemingly if the if humans and Faunus all kind of came together in RWBY would be the Grim, and I feel like everything would just be fine. You don't need magic in their world. You already got like high tech. You got semblances and dust. You don't need them back. Like why would you ever want them back? That's like the only thing out of this I really kind of was like, why would humanity ever kind of want that? And then you could have after Salem and Oz kind of met back up. They seemed pretty fine, and it was like, well, let's help humanity. You know, you're gonna reincarnate forever. I'm immortal, so we can always kind of like be the head rulers as like these two gods that transcend like death. And God, I blame Oz on everything. Legitimately, it's legitimately all his fault, because even with Salem, like when she tries to get into the dark pools, hoping that like the pools of darkness would get rid of the eternal life, and it just kind of corrupted her. Her corruption didn't seem that bad. Like she looked like she was a loving mom. She looked pretty like she was nice to her people. She was just conquering other people, other nations, and eventually she would, put them under her rule and be able to help them all. And I mean, obviously that's pretty. It's bad that she's like going around and just like starting wars and like causing conflicts. But at the same time, if that was the worst of her thing, is it's just like, okay, she was a conqueror back when that was like, a normal thing. So it wasn't like she was like pure evil. She was bad, but she wasn't like wicked evil. It wasn't until Oz is like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm gonna take the kids and go like in the dead of the night and piss her off. That's really kind of, where everything seemed to stem from. If he just like went with it, eventually she would have conquered all the other kingdoms, and they would have just kind of ruled as like these eternal kings and queens, and everyone seemingly would have been fine. Like one of those things like where it's like in the end result things would have been good. So all you gotta do is like sit back and like it's way worse now than what it could have been. Oz. I mean, obviously he has resentment in what he kind of did, and now he just fucked up beyond belief, because when he asked the genie chick, you know, how where are the relics? What do they all do? And he got his answers to that, but also, how do I kill Salem? And she just like, you can't. Like, I'm a product of the gods, and they made her. Or obviously, you would need to be equal to or stronger than one of them to undo it, seemingly. So unless one of them harnesses the power of all four relics and then uh, does it in a way that the gods don't come back, the literal only way that they could do is somehow something like in Fairy Tale. If you've read or watched it again, there's a similar thing. It's like this, but in opposite ways. The dude is the one that's cursed immortality. Well, they both are. Not, and one of them doesn't reincarnate, but they ended up using the curse of the gods like in a infinite loop, to where they kind of voided each other out, and they needed something equal to the other to destroy the curses. So the only thing really I think that they could do is if somehow they used Oz's curse in a somehow way, because since it's also have the same like should have the same like power, like potency and like effect as Salem's like curse of forever living. If they could somehow harness that godly enchantment onto them, onto at least one of them, and harness it towards the other one, maybe they could undo it. It's a pretty cool way. But like I was saying, like this episode has I think it had the best layout and the best result and the best like explanations. Like it solved a lot of problems in one episode. You got a lot of really good lore, you got a lot of good character depth, and a lot of good understanding. Like obviously, I can see why Salem got like pretty pissed off at the end of this, like the one person that she really like synced up with the world tried to betray her, and but should have talked. I think she should have talked it out, and definitely not like instant combat, probably killing their kids in the process. I mean, geez, that's pretty rough. And it makes me also wonder, like, how old is Salem? Because it like if they're going like direct like humanity from like creation scratch, she has to be millions of years old or something. Like pretty wild. So really good episode, the best one I think out of the whole series so far, and it really just brought up a lot more interesting stuff. Like I would have rather this been the series in some ways than like the main series. I think it would have been so much more interesting. Or if there was a prequel of this whole layout and we got more in depth of this, just this whole big events, and like if this led up to it and you saw like Salem as she was and then like her whole journey and then like at the end that she turned evil and then we got to this, that went pretty crazy. Or if we get more flashbacks, I kind of have more sympathy towards Salem if she has like some goal of like figuring out how she can destroy the gods or what exactly she's gonna do with all the relics. Maybe she could use them in different ways and just take control of the world. Because it looked like she had plans to better them, better humanity, and in the end result make it pretty rough, pretty roughly done, just so at the end of it all, humanity would be better off. Like, because there's a lot of problems now, but I feel like if she just if Oz hadn't screwed it all up, things would have been in a much better spot. But anyway, tell me what you think about this episode. Have you really liked it? I really like this episode. I'm excited to put this out and hear your opinions on it. So if you enjoy this kind of, enjoy RWBY, you like my reviews and whatnot, thumbs up the video, like it. I'd appreciate it, or at least drop a comment below. And hopefully I can get you to subscribe to the channel. And if you're already subscribed, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But otherwise, the only other thing I really got left is if you want to check out my other content, I got mostly manga and anime stuff. But otherwise, thank you very much for listening.